Okay, welcome everyone to our local author fair panelists and our audience members to our virtual local author session that's focusing on writing in verse. So we are delighted to be able to host you here in our virtual local author fair. This is the first time we're doing it virtually. Last year we weren't able to hold it due to the pandemic. And then previous years we've had it in person. So now we are able to hold it with both of you being able to join from the comfort of your home, and then audience members can as well. So, and just a note that this program is being recorded so that others will be able to enjoy it in the future. And it's being presented in webinar format. So that means that anyone who's in the audience cannot be seen or heard. So nothing to worry about there. If you do have any comments though, or questions, feel free to type them anytime during the author presentations. You can go to where it says chat. If you have any comments, you can share anytime. And the same for if you have any questions, you can just click where it says Q&A and you can type in your question. And then after the authors present, we will have our Q&A session. All right, so with that, I will first like to introduce our first writer in verse, and that is Bindi Bitterman. And she is the author of Skiddly Diddly Skat, which is coming out in September of this year, 2021, and you can see it there. And Bindi says she is 90, but that nobody believes that because she is spry and mentally active. This first book of hers is a limerick picture book for kids ages up to about 9 or 10. It's a single long story in limerick form, and she was lucky to find in her words, a terrific illustrator. And she notes that she had to spill coffee in her computer to find him, however. I'm sure we would like to hear more about that. And also, she was able to find a graphic designer, which was a position that she didn't even know that she would need at the time. And she says she's been extremely lucky in getting help, but as a self-publisher, the list of things yet to do is as long as her arm, not to mention that she has had no idea how to do them. She says you all represent her very first audience. Her book is still in mock-up, she says, but it will be published, she hopes and expects, in September. Welcome, Bindi Bitterman.
Okay. Thank you, Anne. This is, in fact, a very auspicious occasion for me. I'm not used to talking before the public. I don't, oh, you want to know why spilling my coffee onto the computer helped me get an illustrator? Well, oh, this, I did not intend to self-publish this book. I went the usual route. I tried to get an agent. It's my feeling, although I have no proof of this, that the fact that it was a limerick deterred agents. I know they do verse, but a book-length limerick, at least I must have reached out to a dozen agents who indicated they were verse interested. And they wouldn't even, I didn't get one to even look at the manuscript. And I know I live in a senior community, and I know that a lot of people, even the educated and cultivated ones, don't know how to read a limerick, which is why, interestingly enough, I have a QR code inside my book. So people can hear it being read and know how it should be read before they take that on themselves. And in fact, if they never want to take it on themselves, they can always use the QR code as they're turning pages. But at any rate, it was still just a manuscript. And I had approached when I realized there wouldn't be a publisher to get an illustrator, I had approached one woman I know who's an established, very popular, very well-known illustrator, but she's not in good enough health to do it. So then I spilled coffee on my computer, normally not a very good thing, had to get a new computer, but also I found out you can retrieve data. And when they retrieved it, it went all the way back to the year 2000. Now, in 2000, I was still married. My husband was still alive, and he was an artist. And we traveled a circuit of artists, and one of them out in San Francisco became a very good friend. And when we did shows in San Francisco, we would be their house guests. And apparently in 2000, he had written us that he had now branched out into children's illustration. But in the year 2000, I wouldn't have been interested in it. So we probably just didn't see it. When the retrieved data took us all the way back to 2000, and I saw that again, I mean, it was just amazing. So I wrote him and said, show me an example. And he did, and it was perfect. And we got a contract up, and and the rest is history. And that's his illustration that you just saw when I held up the book. The graphic designer, I can't even remember who told me I needed a graphic design. One of my main points of this is I'm learning as I go. And it's supposed to be published next month, and there's still a list as long as my arm of things I have to do. Distribution, they talk about Ingram Sparks, and they talk about draft to digital. And before I'm not going to make any money on this book. I know that. I don't care. I won't do Amazon. I don't like Amazon because it's put all these independent bookstores out of business, and I just don't want to have anything to do with it. I think draft to digital only works with Amazon, or not only, but does. And there's so much I don't know. And I just found out we have a wonderful independent bookstore right near where I live called Women and Children First, quite well known. And I have not been in personally with, and I won't until the book comes out, but they told a very good friend of mine that they won't even consider a self-published book. They didn't give her any reasons, but from what I've been able to gather, the tradition was that they were shoddily done. And there's also something about buying on consignment. I don't want to sell on consignment if I can help it, but that's another area I don't know anything about. I do know that this is not a shoddy book. This is a first-class book in every corner of it. I do intend to make it a spiral binding, and I'm getting a lot of pushback. Why are you doing that? I'm doing it so that kids can open it and lay it flat over and over and over, and it won't come apart. But anyway, so some people think that, well, for one thing, if you stand it on its edge, all you'll see is the spiral. But I think since that's sort of unique, it'll make people pull it out to see what it is. But I don't know. Am I talking about the right things? I mean, there's so many things I could talk about. Somebody said, you're 90 years old. Will you ever have another book? Well, actually, I have another book already, but it's not a sequel. Even before this, I just write limericks. I just write them. I write them every day. I just keep writing limericks. And I wrote one that would be presumably for middle graders, kind of like how to succeed in the middle grades. It's all about, don't tell lies and be nice to your grandparents and all kinds of stuff like that. And if Skiddly is popular and successful, it won't be like an illustrated picture book. I'm not sure what it'll be, but I have that. So my age doesn't have to be held against me. Okay, have I still got time to talk? So, all right, I did have a question about library programs, since that's what you guys are all about. I know you used to do in-person library programs and kids would come. You probably can't do those anymore. And I'm concerned maybe you're doing them virtually. I would like to know how that's going to affect something like my book and the selling of it, so to speak. Let's see. I can't think of any. Can I ask for questions?
So we'll have questions at the end after our other author presents too. We'll have Q&A. And then, but I can answer that one question that you asked
Okay.
about whether we're having in-person programming. So over the summer, we did start some pop-up programs. And then in the fall, we will have some in-person programming and some virtual programming, and then some hybrid programs too. So in which people will be able to choose whether they want to be in person to attend or to attend virtually on Zoom. So we're having a combination of ways that we're going to be presenting in autumn.
Okay. I know you don't have any questions yet, but
so right. So we'll have we'll watch for questions coming in, and then we will share those questions. If any questions that come in from the audience, I will share those at the end after our other author presents, and then we'll address all of those then. Okay.
yes.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Bindi. All right, so our next author who writes in verse is Ken Jackson. And Ken G. Jackson grew up in Illinois, where he still resides, living in the Chicago area. He has been writing poetry since he was a teenager, and he published his first poetry collection in 2018. Welcome, Ken.
Hi. I wanted to first really thank the library for doing this, but also doing all the great things they do. And all of you out there that use the library must know that it's an amazing resource for this community, and it keeps us thinking. I contend that it keeps us more human because of the type of programs they do. And I'm astonished all the time when I visit and see what's going on. So this book, this is my book. It's called 100 Writings for a Modern World. And it's mostly, I write about things like social issues and politics and spiritual issues and love and family issues and all kinds of things. I think I love poetry because it's the most freeing of the type of writing that people can do. And it can be structured or it can be very little structured. And it's mostly, it allows me to use my imagination fully. And it's very freeing. There's no better feeling than when you write something and when you're done, it's how you want it to be. And it says what you want it to be. And it's a great feeling. So with my process, it's pretty much I start with an idea, and it can be any kind of idea. It can be issues related to civil rights or what's going on in the moment. And then it's often also starts sometimes with just a line, with the first line. And after that first line, everything kind of flows from that. Sometimes I don't even know where the lines or words, it feels like I don't know where they come from. In my writing, I use a lot of alliteration, and that's where you use common beginnings and words, but also the alliteration is there throughout in terms of the middle of words. And it's just something that I like to do, or that happens. I wanted to also talk about, I use a lot of similes, a lot of metaphors. And if you don't know these, you can look them up. But there's also, I use a lot of personification. I feel those kinds of adjectives help move the poetry much more than just using descriptive words. I also have a habit of using a lot of ing words, and that's because it feels like it brings it into the now, and it has a lot of movement in terms of an action sounding in the words. So, you know, a lot of my writing is a mystery to me in terms of how it comes about. I thought that in terms of, right now my book is available at the library and has been for a while, but I'm sort of in Bindy's position in terms of I want to have it more available, and it is officially published, and it is has a bar code and all that. However, I need to get it more available in distribution, which I'm pondering. I've been planning this for some time. What I would say, if you're interested, check out the book from the library and see what you think. And then at this point, you can contact me, and there's contact information in the book if you're interested. And I'm like Bindy, I will never make money from this. So, but I like, but I like people to know about it, and I like your input. Okay, I think the next thing that I want to do is to give you an idea of what I write. I'm going to just read a few here and give you something to think about. So sometimes my writing is humorous and really light in tone, childlike, and that's this example. This one's called My Dreamscape. My Dreamscape. My dreamscape is a seascape. Turtles swimming by, seashells in their pockets, wishing they could fly. Sharks, they are finless. Danger lurks below, but we never see them because the fins don't show. Octopuses matter. Tentacles intrude, hug the nearby diver, and they're always tried and true. The clownfish, he's a soldier, wears his orange and black. He won't salute the major and never will attack. And me, a barracuda, clinging to that boat, drifting off to paradise, feeling so much hope. I also write, I said a lot of times there's messages, and sometimes they're incredibly brief. So this is a very brief one of mine. It's called Earthling Paradox. Earthling Paradox. Diligent looking for life elsewhere while absently killing it here. Sometimes I write things that are just, I'm trying to use some absurdity, but I also want to make a point. This is an example of that kind of poetry. This is called Hello There, People. Hello there, people in the sky. Mars, your destination? Why not have some apple pie from the United Nations? America, I can't see you, hardly see the earth. Up above the endless stars, welcomed our world's birth. Sun sure is bright here, blinding, you might say. Everything God giveth, he just might take away. They said that we must colonize. Earth becomes so ruined, had to find another home. My life's just not worth losing. So far, Mars seems quite nice. Just some old erosion, but tough to make good atmosphere with nuclear explosions. Before the land was barren, but now they say it's molten. A barbecue would fit right in. A pit just can't be chosen. Now I have my condo and cases of new Coke. I stroll out on my breezeway. Here's my brand new joke. 2 astronauts were skating, but one fell through the ice. The other kept on going and called it paradise. Sometimes I just write something about events or things that took place. Okay, this one is just about, my own thoughts. wondering about the bigger things, wandering about in endless rings, circling the parallel drive, always feeling alive, despite the tearing emotion, rolling with constant motion, never standing still, moving even against my will, searching, such an old cliche, becoming my virtual slave, never can be what it isn't, declare that it is omnipresent, shakes me to the very depths, never giving rise to rest. And then finally, I'm gonna do one that's just, I believe that life is a miracle and everything around us is miraculous. And this one is called, I Saw a Little Baby. I've rephrased this one. Now it's called, I do this. Now it's called Miraculous Someone. I met a little baby who knew more than I knew about the living essence, the brew she just ensued, the teeming, moving aspect of a million morning suns, a newly living, breathing, miraculous someone. So these are just some examples of what I write. And if you're interested, check it out and read it. And again, if you want to know more, there's contact information within the book. So, and again, I want to thank the library for accepting my book and having it available for all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ken. Wonderful. All right, so we have one question, and then we're almost out of time, unfortunately, but our question is, can we hear the book? So I think the person who typed the question is probably asking you, Bindi. Is there one limerick that you could share with us? Or would you like to, or not?
It's a story, so there isn't one.
Ah, okay.
But, and I could read it and you could tell me to stop when I run out of time if you want. How much time is there?
So we're pretty much out of time right now. If there's maybe like one stanza, would it make any sense to share that, or would you rather just hold off on that?
The first page is skiddly diddly scat. Mike, a mouse in a nice laundromat, frowned at Meyer, a cat who came in and just sat. Skiddly diddly scat. That's the first page. I don't know if
Wonderful.
If somebody wants to get a hold of me privately, I do have a website. It's called bindysverses.com. Skiddly isn't in there because it's not published yet, but a lot of other verses are. And my contact information is in there. So they could get to me that way. And it's just a capital B and then no punctuation or capitals until the .com.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you. And I know we had
just
one
let me say
other
this
question.
Just one thing. The enemies become friends. That's the end of it. So that's kind of if there's a moral, the enemies at the end become friends.
Delightful.
Things happen to them in the interim. They get all mixed up. Their tails get mixed up. Their voices, the mouse says meow, the cat goes squeak. So they have a lot to work out before they get to the destination.
Thank you for that taste of what we have to look forward to. There was one other question, Bindi, that somebody had asked, and then we'll have to end. If you are able to answer briefly why you do not consider yourself a poet. So we've been told that you do not consider yourself a poet.
Well, it's just that I don't write poetry. I think poetry or poems are serious, and I've never written. I write POMES. I write funny. I write lighthearted. That's the gist of it, I guess.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, it's been delightful to have you both here for our Writing in Verse session for the EPL Virtual Local Author Fair. Bindi Bitterman, author of Skiddly Diddly Skat, coming out in September 2021. And Kenneth G. Jackson, author of 100 Writings for a Modern World, Volume 1. Thank you so much. It has been a delight to have you here.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ann.
You're very welcome.